Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful Reading with Your Kids studios in the delightful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We have three fantastic guests for you today. Mother and daughter team Nita Clark and Kathy Doherty are here to talk about their great book, I Hate Numbers. And we're excited to welcome Stephanie Hohl back to the show. She's here to tell us about the latest addition to her ABC See, Hear, Do series. If you're the author of a great children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. And if you're the author of a great children's book, you are also the head of your business. That's right. And your business is the business of selling your great children's book. And you want to do it right. That's why I think you should check out readingwithyourkids.com/inkfile. INCFILE. readingwithyourkids.com/inkfile. Inkfile helps you quickly and easily form your LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or any other business. Start your business today for as little as $49 and state fees. There's no contracts. There's no hidden fees. Inkfile has been trusted by over 150,000 businesses worldwide since 2004. Check it out today. Remember, you are the head of a business once you write your great children's book. You want to do it right. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com/inkfile. INCFILE. readingwithyourkids.com/inkfile. We are so very, very excited. Joining us from Canton in Ohio, right down the street from the Football Hall of Fame. It's a mom and daughter writing team. They're the author and illustrators of I Hate Numbers. Please welcome to the show the writer, the author, Nita Clark, and her daughter, the illustrator, Kathy Doherty. Nita, Kathy, how are you guys?
Just great. And thank you for having us. It's quite a privilege.
I'm really, really happy to have you here. That voice you just heard is Nita, the author, and her daughter Kathy. We share last names. We're probably related somewhere along the line. At some point, my family was chased out of Ireland. Maybe at the same time that Kathy's husband's family was chased out of Ireland. Who knows?
Well, they came over in the early 1900s, so.
Okay. And maybe they came over voluntarily, unlike my family. Who knows? It's in the past. It doesn't matter. We can't change things. But we can change the way that we look at things that make us uncomfortable. And for a lot of people, for a lot of kids, numbers make them feel uncomfortable, and math. And so tell us a little bit about I Hate Numbers and why you decided to write it, Nita.
Well, that was based on a little poem that I had written years ago for Kathy's two children. They were in elementary school and having a little bit of a problem with math. And I wanted to show them that though times had changed, children had not changed, and that having those kind of problems has been around forever. As old as I was, I had problems. But if they just took it and didn't get too frustrated with it, they could learn math, that it wasn't impossible.
Yeah.
Aptitude, there is an aptitude, I believe, for, what you're good at and what you're not. But sometimes aptitude and attitude get put in together, mixed up together. And once you get the wrong attitude about numbers, you're just going to always have trouble with them. And I wanted to prevent that. So I wrote that silly little poem because I do believe that you can talk to children and sometimes it sounds like you're preaching to them and that just turns them off. But if you can find some way to present a problem with a little sense of humor, it changes the whole atmosphere. It changes their whole resistance to listening to what you're trying to tell them, and it just helps solve a big problem that really didn't even need to be there in the first place.
Wow, I tend to agree. I love teaching with humor, but there's some people out there who say kind of like, no, learning is serious. Why don't we ask the mom, Kathy, Nita wrote this poem for your kids to help them kind of change their attitude and the way they looked at math. Did it help?
My daughter says it did. My son, he's stubborn and says it didn't, but then, he's
a Doherty.
He's very stubborn, but yeah, my daughter says it does. My granddaughter says it makes it a lot easier for her that, she reads the book and remembers, okay, it's not so hard. There are little tricks I can use to figure it out. And she's used them over the last couple of years. She's in the 5th grade now and, doing fantastic in math.
Yeah.
So.
That's, what Nita was saying, and I agree with you, Nita, a lot of times attitude, and it's just not with numbers. There are a lot of times when we look at a problem and we blow it up, and
exactly.
It's like, whoa, this is crazy. And all we're seeing is the enormity of the problem and our fear. And if we can just change the way we look at it, and we can help our kids change the way they look at something that's overwhelming them, suddenly they don't have to look at this big, scary thing. They can start looking at little pieces and having those pieces make sense for them.
Like I said, a lot of times it's just attitude. And if you think that there's a problem, if it's something you don't like in the first place, you're going to find every excuse that you can not to confront it. You're going to try to avoid it. Mm-hmm. But, if you just lose that attitude and sit down and lose that fear, look at the whole situation from a different angle, you'll find out that it's not that hard and you can change it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, my little book does that. It started out when I first wrote it, it just had the negative side. But when we decided we wanted to turn it into a book, then I had to write the positive side. Mm-hmm. Because with Tom and Kara, I had them here to talk to about the positive things about not being like me. Mm-hmm. And then when we wanted to do the book, then we come up with the second half where we did all the reasons why you need numbers, that they're going to be with you all your life, and your life's going to be a lot easier if you lose that fear.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about here on the podcast in the past, and Nita and Kathy, maybe you both have experienced it as moms and grandmoms, is, just finding opportunities to talk to kids about math or talk, I think it's more appropriate to say talk math with kids. When we go to a supermarket and we're just not looking for pasta. We need 4 boxes of pasta. We need 4 1-pound boxes, and just help the kids see that, well, numbers are they're in our world. They're with us. They're all around us, and they don't need to be scary.
Right. Exactly. And I wanted to, with my book, I have written all of my books. Well, I shouldn't say all of them, but, several of my books using my age to show children that they can go to their grandparents, they can go to their great-grandparents, and they will understand if they have a problem that they probably had the same problem when they were a kid. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So not to hesitate to ask for help, whether you have your parents with you or whether you have a grandparent or even an aunt, an uncle, a foster parent. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Yeah. Because they were all once kids themselves, and they all have experienced probably what you're going through.
Now, Kathy, I want to ask you, as sometimes it seems you guys are collaborating on a book and you have this close relationship, but I know a lot of parents out there, sometimes they resent, when the kid goes and talks to the grandparent about an issue instead of coming directly to a parent. Is that something that you experienced? Is it something that annoyed you or bothered you, or did you say, thank goodness my kids can talk to somebody about this?
I actually said, thank goodness that I had my parents around. Mm-hmm. And my daughter now says, thank goodness she has me and she has her grandmother to help her when it comes time for her girls to have someone to talk to.
So we're really a great grandparent to Lily, which is
My granddaughter.
her granddaughter. So, there's 4 generations here that we're working together. And as far as somebody that's very strong on their heritage, I think that family connection means everything to a child. It gives them a sense of security. It gives them a sense of longevity. It makes them aware that no matter what happens, they're always going to have somebody that loves and cares for them. And, that's why in the book, I want to make sure that they know that this is written by an old lady.
And I've always appreciated the help that my mom has given me for when it came time to raising my kids. And like I said, my daughter welcomes the help that I give her and my mom gives her. My granddaughter always has someone to talk to, whether it's our side of the family or her father's side of the family. She's got a nice, large support group for both of her daughters, and she loves it. And I always have.
I think maybe why I'm more aware of that and why I think it's more important, my mother died when I was 8. Mm-hmm. I grew up without a mother. I didn't have that person to talk to. My dad was wonderful. He raised us kids all by himself. But even with that, we missed out on a lot. I missed out on a lot. And I really wanted to make a difference with my girls. I wanted to make a difference with my kids because I wanted to, while I was raising them and doing things for them, I was getting back all the things that I had missed out on when I was a child.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love that you two are working together as a team, as an author and illustrator team. Tell us how was that dynamic? Was that smooth, or were there some kind of rough spots sometimes?
It's been smooth.
It's always been smooth. We've actually been working together for 24 years.
With another business that I had started after raising my 6 kids, I needed some kind of an income because I realized that, as wonderful as being a full-time mother was, there was no pension plan. There was no security if anything would happen where I would have to provide for myself. Mm-hmm. So I started a little business and it was successful, and Kathy come on board and made it even more successful. And we had worked that business together. But I had it for 31 and a half years up until last May. Kathy started 24 and a half years ago with me. And so we've worked well together forever. And since I've become have my vision impairment, there's so much of this I couldn't do without it. I had taken some medicine, had a very, very, very bad reaction to it. And part of the problem that left me with was impaired vision. So I had just given up the idea of ever being able to write. Mm-hmm. But Kathy suggested that I buy a large flat screen TV, zoomed the text up to 225, and I make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of spelling mistakes, but Kathy edits it, and together we've been able to, create this whole new business and, go on to continue at 80 years old, continue a new exciting life.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, Kathy is illustrating children's books and editing your mom's book. Is this always been a dream, or is it just one of those situations? This is what life is handing me, and this is the best way to deal with this part of our lives.
This is one of those things my mom thinks I can, so I can. My mom has always had this thing where if she thinks somebody can do something because she knows them that well, she makes sure he gets challenged to do it. And she's done that to me several times over the years, and it's always turned out well. And this is just another one of those times that I get to put another feather in my cap and say, hey, look, I can do this too. So now I'm an illustrator for books, and not just an illustrator for graphics on the computer or our other business. And I edit and co-write books and
I think
learn
she's
all
one
kind of new fun
she,
stuff.
She inherited a lot of her dad's good traits. She can look at a problem, or she can look at a situation and figure out how to put everything together to make it work. I'm the word person. I can think of things and put the words down, but if I had to put it together as formatting the book or doing the technical work on the computer, I would be lost.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love about this team? Not only do I love the book, I Hate Numbers, but I love the way that you both are complementing each other. And I think that your story is a beautiful lesson for families and for kids to understand that we all do have different abilities and talents.
Exactly.
And we all, if we learn how to depend on each other, and there are things the right hand can do that the left hand can't do, and vice versa. And if the two hands can come together, some beautiful, beautiful things can happen. And it's wonderful that you two have encouraged each other to make the most of your individual talents, and then you combine those talents to really create wonderful stories for kids.
Well, I have decided that I'm not going to judge my success on the sales. I have come up with what I call the retest. And my retest is when someone looks at that cover that we've designed, does it pique their interest to make them want to open that book and see what's inside? Mm-hmm. And then once they're inside the book, I've watched the people, and the second RE of my retest is reaction. Are they reacting in the way that you had hoped they would react when you had written that paragraph or that chapter? Mm-hmm. And then it's response. If your book has a message, if it has a lesson, the moral of the story, how does a person respond to that once they have closed the book? And then the fourth RE of my test is remembering. Mm-hmm. If only one person remembers reading that book over the years, then you've been a success. I know a lot of people hesitate to write a book or put their book out there because they're afraid they won't have sales. Like I said, I would encourage anybody that thinks they have something to offer, don't worry about the sales. Worry about just a few people's reaction. Because if you write something and somebody picks that book up and they read it and it makes a difference in their life at one point or another, you're a success. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're a success. I remember reading when my mother passed away. It was a very sad time and I was very lonely. I found comfort in books. And because I could read the stories like Little Women and the hardships they were going through, and yet they found happiness at the end. It told me, as sad as my life was, if I just hung in there, I could have the same kind of happy ending. Mm-hmm. And so if we can do that for just one person in our lifetime, we're a success.
Absolutely. And that's a really, really important lesson. There are lots of books out there that get a bazillion sales, but they're entertaining and they bring a smile to somebody's face. But it's, like cotton candy, it's just, it doesn't really fill you. It's just something that tastes. But meanwhile, if you can, that like you said, that one person picks up your book and it makes a difference in that one person's life, then yeah, that's really absolutely worth the time and the effort and the courage, to kind of go out there and to put your work out there.
Exactly. And there's a lot of older people that I'm sure have beautiful stories and they hesitate to write them. And I encourage them not to be afraid to do it. And whether they publish them or not, can you imagine what it would be like to hold in your hand something that your great-great-grandmother had written 100 years ago? Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, that would be the most fantastic feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And to have something that linked you back to your heritage.
Absolutely. Well, I can honestly say that yesterday, as we were preparing to sit down and watch the Patriots play in the Super Bowl, I got out my grandmother's big yellow bowl that she used to make this dish. My kids call it mac and sauce. My grandmother used to call it goulash, but she taught me how to cook. It was one of the first things she taught me how to cook, and she would always put it into this big yellow bowl, and I still have the big yellow bowl, and I made it yesterday for my niece, and we sat down and watched the game together, eating this delicious meal, and I felt like my grandmother was with us. So
it's a tribute to your past.
Absolutely.
And what your ancestors did affect you today. What the decisions they made 100 years ago play a part in your life today, because you would not be where you are today if they had not decided to come to this country.
Absolutely.
And the decisions you're making now will play a part in future generations. So, it's important what we do with our lives.
Absolutely. Well, it's really important, too, that people check out I Hate Numbers, and it's important for people to know where they can go to find out more about your books. So, Kathy, why don't you take a minute to tell us where we can find out more and where we can connect with you folks on the Internet?
Well, you can find us on Amazon. Where our books are there. You can also find us at our website, which is aneatreadpublishing.com. Barnes and Nobles carries the books online, and
Ingram's books.
You can find us just about at all the different online book vendors. We're on iTunes, or iBooks, I should say, and we're on pretty much all of them.
Awesome. Well, today we've had the pleasure of talking to mom and daughter team, author and illustrator team, Nita Clark and Kathy Doherty. Make sure you check out their book, I Hate Numbers. Ladies, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Well, thanks for having us. It's been like talking to an old friend.
Thank you very much.
It is almost the end of the school year, but there's still time to celebrate our shared love of reading and learning together with our all-new in-school experience that we are calling Reading with Your Kids Live. That's right. We're going to use magic, storytelling, and illusions to inspire your kids to read more, to inspire you to read more with your kids and really embrace and fall in love with reading and learning. You can learn more about this by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com/live. Hey, we love it when our friends come back onto the show. We had so much fun with our next guest a while ago talking about her wonderful ABC See, Hear, Do series. We're excited that she is back to tell us about 2 new books in the series. Please welcome from Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, Stephanie Hohl. Stephanie, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me back on the show.
We are excited to have you back on the ABC See, Hear, Do series. They're fun books. They're fun, kind of totally interactive books, and ways to help our kids develop speech. Can you tell us a little bit about how these books differ from other books that are introducing kids to sounds?
Yeah, for sure. So the difference between these books and other learn-to-read books is it combines sight, sound, and movement. Mm-hmm. So for each letter or letter combination, there's an animal with an action. And so the kids actually have to move their bodies, and it really helps them remember the sounds, which makes learning to read so much easier. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people, either they forget or they don't understand that when we're using different parts of our brain control different parts or different things that we're doing. And when we're using different parts of our brain to learn something, that's using more of your brain, and you have a better chance to kind of learn it and to hold on to those things.
Exactly. I think the science shows that there's like a 90% retention rate when you're using up to 3 parts of your brain or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a proven thing that by using the methods of learning, you're able to retain it much more easily.
Yeah. I used to be so frustrating with my son. He would have such a hard time learning vocabulary. And it would be something that would frustrate him to no end, and especially the spelling part. And I would always just say to him, just sit down and write the words out. Just write it a couple of times. And he would always, no, the teacher didn't tell me I had to do that. I don't want to do that. And when he finally broke down and said, yep, I'm going to try it, it was, he's like, whoa, that really works. What a surprise.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents get really frustrated, and kids get frustrated learning to read because it is such a complex process. And, it can be really challenging for a lot of kids. And I think that's why my books have been so popular, because it just kind of breaks it down and makes it more simple and fun. And so it helps them get it. Mm-hmm. It makes it click in their brains somehow.
It's interesting. I was thinking this the other day, and just I've mentioned many, many times on the show that we've hosted international kids in our home, and we've hosted a lot of kids from China. And of course, they have this completely different writing system where they're using characters as opposed to letters that you kind of blend together. Am I right in thinking that the way we read isn't necessarily intuitive, that it's intuitive to us now because, all of us have been doing it for so long, but it takes a certain amount of mental gymnastics for kids to kind of get the whole way it works. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe so. I don't think that it just comes supernaturally. I mean, it does for some kids, but yeah, it's definitely something you have to learn and teach your brain. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm.
Now, the third and fourth book in the series, ABC, see here, do 3 and 4. 3 is talking about blended ending sounds, and number mm-hmm. 4 is long vowels. Tell us a little bit about the blended ending sounds and what are some of the challenges some kids face with that?
So the second book is blended beginning sounds, and then the third one is the ending sounds. Mm-hmm. And in truth, a lot of the sounds in those books can be used as beginning or ending sounds. Mm-hmm. But I kind of split it up based on what they're most commonly used as. And it's really it's being able to see a group of 2 or 3 letters and realizing that it makes one sound altogether, so that they don't have to sound each of those letters out. Mm-hmm. So they're like really common groupings. Some of them are blends, which are you actually can sound out each letter, and some of them are called diagrams, where it actually makes a totally different sound. For example, like CH, that makes the sound ch, and mm-hmm. so you can't sound out k.
Right.
So they have to memorize that combination makes a different sound. So it's just helping them recognize these patterns in words so that when they see words, they can realize, oh, that combination of CH makes this other sound.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is a challenge, and because the way English is written, there's a lot of it that kind of makes sense and follows rules, but there's a lot that we have these kind of English rules, but then there's a lot of exceptions to those rules.
Right. There's so much that doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah. Must be really. I think it was hard when my kids were learning how to read to kind of wrap my head around that, but because they didn't have a way to express themselves, but as we hosted kids from different countries, and those kids would, kind of struggle with some of these irregularities in English, and then they were able to articulate it a little bit, and like, oh, this doesn't make sense, and why we have this rule for this, and now all of a sudden it's different.
Yeah. For sure.
So tell us about.
And my book.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the book 4 for long vowels. That book really kind of cements it all together, because the long vowels are so tricky, because there are so many different letter combinations that make that same long vowel sound. And so the way the book is set up is by each long vowel sound. For example, for the sound A, there's 5 or 6 letter combinations that make that A sound. Mm-hmm. And so the kids do the same action for each of those sounds, but they see the different letter combinations. And so, for my son, who was 5, once he started using that book, like, his reading exploded. Like, it really took off, because there's so many words that have the long vowel sounds. Like, I'm just trying to think of a long A sound, like the word 8, E-I-G-H. That makes the long A sound. And so when you realize and learn these different letter combinations that make those sounds, it just opens up thousands of new words for you to be able to read.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that's cool about your series, that each book introduces, when you finish working with the book, your child has learned, for example, in book 3, they learn how to read 51 words. And in book 4, they learn how to read 81 different words.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they build on each other. And so it just keeps giving the child more and more confidence as they go. And they realize, wow, look at all these words I can read now.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, you build that confidence, but it's also a lot of fun. Give us just a little example of, when you're talking about combining the sounds and the reading with movement. Just give us just a little idea of what you're talking about, what kind of movement the kids would be making, and as they're reading ABC, See, Hear, Do.
Sure. Most of them are hand movements. Some of them are use your foot or whatever. But like I was just talking about, like the long A sound in book 4, you make a tent with your hands, which, kind of looks like the letter A.
Yep.
Capital letter A. Mm-hmm. Or for like the CH that I was talking about earlier, for that one, you pump your arms really fast like a cheetah, as if you're running.
Ah, cool.
Say and of course, everyone's all-time favorite is from the first book, the letter A, where you throw your hands up in the air and say, ah, like you're scared. The kids just love that one.
And if you're sitting there doubting, I don't think my kid would be really into that. My son just got married over the weekend, and when that song that everybody spells out, YMC, when that came on, everybody was on the dance floor doing the same, those movements from back in the 70s. And they loved it, and they had a lot of fun. And I think it's, probably the same kind of principle for the kids, getting them up, getting them moving, building their confidence, introducing them to all these great, great words.
Yeah, well, and congrats to your son.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, people love that song because it's so easy to remember the words, because you have the hand motions, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, tell everybody where they can find out more about your ABC See, Hear, Do series online.
So we do have a website, www.abcseeheardo.com, and we actually have a lot of great stuff on there, like letter learning ideas, different games and activities. We've got a lot of videos on there for crafts and snacks and all sorts of things. We also have printable items on there with lots of flashcards available. And so that's a great resource. And then the books are all available on Amazon or at any local bookstore can order the books. And then also on social media, our Instagram account, which is just at ABCC Here Do. We've got tons of ideas on there too for letter learning, and on Twitter and Facebook. So, I mean, really anywhere you can find us. And, you know, we just are trying to provide lots of great ideas for letter learning support.
Yeah, yeah. And what a great gift idea for either a parent or godparent, aunt, uncle, just, you know, somebody you know has a little one in the house. This would be a wonderful gift. Just grab the whole set and share it. What a great gift for a family.
Lots of grandparents I know were buying it for Christmas for the grandkids. So that's definitely a good gift for sure. Absolutely.
Well, we've been talking today to the author of the ABC See, Hear, Do series, Stephanie Hohl. Stephanie, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I loved it. Great time.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be coming to us from the great state of Maine. He is an author, he's an illustrator, he's a cartoonist. His name is Lincoln Purse, and you do not want to miss it. It's a great, great conversation. We want to thank our guests today, Kathy Doherty and Nita Clark. Check out their book, I Hate Numbers. And, of course, we want to thank Stephanie Hohl. Make sure you check out her inventive and really, really fun ABC See, Hear, Do series. Oh, and we also want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to write a 5-star review for us on iHeartRadio podcast app or on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, thank you so much for subscribing to the show. And most of all, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.